Thank you all for attending this evening's webinar. I'm happy to have Dr. Lou Schumann, an industry expert on SEO analysis and also an expert international KOL. Dr. Schumann, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you again.
And first of all, I would like to thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy day to attend my webinar. The title of my webinar is Optimizing Your Practice Search Engine Optimization. And the goal over the next hour is to really define SEO, and that by the time we're done, that you'll have a very clear understanding of search engine optimization. Then I'm going to go into 6 tips to be able to get you higher rankings as far as relevancy and rank as far as for the search engines. And then we're going to finish with some third-party online opportunities to help grow your practice. And so to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that you've hired me as a consultant, and your interest is that you want a strong online presence, or at least to investigate to see if you invest some dollars, are you able to utilize online to have a strong presence and to grow your practice. And so as a consultant, the first thing that I would do is I would look to see if our target market, those that make the decision about dentistry, are online. And you should be aware of the fact that if you were to speak to marketing agencies or companies that are working with consumers to bring them into dentistry, the target market for dentistry is women 25 to 49. They're the decision makers. They're the ones that make the decision about their children and many times about their spouse too. So the first thing I would want to look into is, are women 25 to 49 online? And I'm going to be showing you a number of graphs and charts over the next hour. And I want you to know that all of these are by a highly reputable research firm, so you can trust these numbers and trust these charts. And as you can see, 92% of Americans 30 to 49 are online. And if I was to kick that back to get to the 25 to 49 number, that jumps up to 98%. So the first thing I would do is come back and I would tell you that absolutely that our target market is online in a significant way. So then the second thing I would want to do is to see, are they looking for dentistry? Are they looking for dentistry online? And would it be worth, of course, making an investment as a result that they are? And so here's another graph that shows that in the month of June, in a global search, look at the, and this is in millions, almost 13 million searches were done for the word dentistry, another 13 million for the word dentist. And what was surprising to me in doing this research, that almost 25 million were using the keyword dental. And so the thing that was interesting here is, and I want you to remember this for later, is that I was surprised that in keywords and people putting these words in those little white boxes in those search engines, that actually that dental was basically dentist and dentistry combined. And we're gonna utilize that later. But again, looking at as a consultant to see, are people looking for dentistry online? Well, as you can see here, we're looking at 13, 26, 36, 51 million searches for dentistry in the month of June. And so that satisfies you and satisfies me in knowing that our target's online in a very big way. They're absolutely looking for dental. And so then the next step would be to obtain and maintain a significant online presence. Our next step would be to focus on search engine optimization and to make sure that not only that you have a clear awareness of it, but that we want to utilize it in our plan so that the goal is that you're ranked highly and that you're relevant online as people are starting to put words in that white box looking for a dentist. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure you have a clear definition of SEO, and I'm going to take the word search engine optimization and I'm going to divide it into 2 words, search engine and optimization. So let's start with the word search engine. And what is a search engine? A search engine is a very sophisticated software program that basically has to do 2 things and only 2 things, but it has to do them extremely well. And the 2 things they need to do is that when we put words in that little white box, those spiders are going to go out into the World Wide Web. And the key is that what their goal is to find the most relevant information that they can based on the words you've put in that little white box. And as they bring them back to you, then they rank them from the most relevant to the least. And the key is that we as consumers need to trust those search engines, because if we do put words in that little white box, and if we don't get what we consider to be relevant information, then we won't use that search engine and they'll be out of business. So when we look at the word search optimization, as I said, in defining it, I wanted to divide it into two words, search engine and optimization. And still staying with search engine, as you can see, there are three major search engines: Google, Bing, and Yahoo. And those percentages that are next to them are actually the number of searches. And so 67% of all searches are done on Google, 16% on Bing, and 13% on Yahoo. And the reason why I wanted to provide you with those numbers is that it's important that when you work with your online marketing company or your social media company, to recognize that search just isn't Google, that actually almost 30% of searches are done in Bing and Yahoo, so that as we start to idealize ourselves to try to get more relevant and to get highly ranked, that not only will we ideal ourselves related to Google, but I want you to also focus on Bing and Yahoo as well. So that's what a search engine is. And now let's talk about what optimization is. Optimization is, what can we do? What can we do so that when someone puts those words in that little white box, and for the purpose of this exercise, say the word dental, and I'm from Baltimore, so let's say dental Baltimore, is that when someone puts those words in that little white box, and when those spiders start to go out to the World Wide Web, optimization is what can we do so that when those spiders go out, they'll stop at our website, they'll consider us relevant, and they'll rank us highly when they come back to the consumer that's put the word dental, and in my case, Baltimore, into that white box. So let's talk about where we're talking about. And we're talking about down here, those first 10 listings that come out. You can see here it says Dentist New Orleans that were put in the little white Google box. And the listing here, what we're looking at is those first 10 listings. That's what we're focusing on when it comes to organic relevancy and ranking. As you look at this page, you can see, of course, on the top on the right, that's the paid listings, and those, of course, are what makes Google billions of dollars. And then in the middle, this has begun from everything from Google Maps to Google Local to Google Plus Local to Google My Business, and we're still sort of waiting to see what's happening in this area because Google has restructured itself recently. It is now called the Alphabet Company. Google is part of the Alphabet Company, and Google Plus Local, which is now Google My Business, that was the competitor to Facebook, we're waiting to find out how that's to be restructured. But for the focus of this hour, we're talking about these listings here and how we make you more relevant and how we get you to rank higher. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about 6 tips for better organic search ranking. And these are tips that we're going to spend some time on in order to give you some takeaways, the things that I want you to do or to look at after the webinar. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the first 3. I'm going to use a book analogy, and that's going to take care of the first 3 bullets: title tagging, meta descriptions, and content. And then this year I added 4, 5, and 6. I'm very fortunate that I get a chance to work with search and social media experts outside of dentistry, and I get to work with them all the time. And I've added these because these have become very important when it comes to relevancy and rank. But we're going to combine the first 3, and how we're going to create an analogy is we're going to pretend that we're going to go to Barnes & Noble and we're going to buy a book on dental. And so what happens when I go to Barnes & Noble's, of course, is when I walk in, I go to the service desk and I say I'm looking for a book on dental, and we're going to focus on the word dental. And he or she is going to tell me, I want you to go up the escalator and over to section 2, and that's where you find all the books on dental. So I go up the escalator, I go to the section, and there in front of me are 20 books on dental. So I found all the books on dental. And in search, that's called title tagging. And what title tagging is when you put those little white words, in this case we're going to say dental, in that little white box. The spiders are going to go out and they're going to look for the word dental in your title tag. Now, what is a title tag? A title tag helps the search engines understand what the page is about, and in this case, it would be the home page. And the title tag is listed at the top of your internet browser. It consists of 140 characters, and this is what it looks like. So I'm going to take this home page from Dr. Gnetsky, and here is his title tag. His title tag says Dentist, Evansville, Wisconsin, Grove Family Dental and TMG Clinic. So if the consumer that put the word dental in that little white box, of course, when the spiders started to go out into the World Wide Web, and then the first place that they stopped is the title tag, they're going to stop here because the word dental is in this doctor's title tag. So that just like I found the 20 books that are on dental at Barnes & Noble, the spider's going to go out and they're going to assemble all the websites that have the title tag, the word dental in that title tag. This is 140 characters, and the key thing here is what I want to ask you is who's in charge of those characters? Who's in charge of your title tag? Who's in charge of putting those 140 characters up there that literally define what's important to your practice so that when someone puts those words into Google in that white box that they'll stop at your website? And the answer is you're in charge. You have the opportunity working with your website company, your social media company, your online marketing company to define what words are important to you as a practitioner and to your practice. The key thing here, though, is if you don't put those 140 characters up in that title tag, who does? Google does. If you don't take charge of the title tags, Google actually will put up what Google thinks are the 140 characters or what's most important. And the question is, of course, do we want Google deciding what's the most important thing to our practice and to our web page and to our home page? And, of course, the answer is no. I had a friend who had put a lot of information on his homepage on Invisalign, but he wasn't seeming to get any growth as a result of it. And he asked me to look at his website. And, of course, the first thing that I did is I went to the title tag to see what the words were that were up there that was where the spiders would stop. And what was up there was the word home for homepage. So, of course, are the spiders ever going to stop at his site related to anyone putting Invisalign into the white box on Google or the other search engines? The answer is no. So it's very important that you think about what are the most important words that mean to you related to your practice. Here, as you saw, the word dentist, remember, 13 million searches in 1 month. Dental is here, 25 million searches globally. And for this practice, obviously, TMJ was important. And so that's key. And as we move on to the next tip, it's important to know not only do you have a title tag page on your home page, but you actually have a title tag page on every page of your website. So as the spiders collect all of the sites that had that word dental, as they're starting to rank them, they're going to start looking at the other title tag pages as well, because at this point there's a competition of ranking as it goes back. So it's very important that you work with the company that you work with to focus on what are the right words for your title tags and to look at all of your web pages to make sure they reflect what's important to you on that page and what's important to you regarding to your practice. So now I'm going back to Barnes & Noble and I have 20 books. Now I need to start to break it down. And so what do you do next? Well, the first thing that I do is I look at the inside cover page, that inside cover, and then the back page, and that's known as the elevator pitch for the publisher and the author. That inside of the cover and the back cover, that's their elevator pitch to try to sell me on buying that book. So I go through the inside covers and the back cover of all the books, and as I'm starting to go through them, if I see one that really isn't what I'm looking for, what do I do with that book? Well, I obviously put it back in the rack. So now I've gone through all of the inside covers and the back pages, and I've now broken it down from 20 books to 7. In search terms, that is called a meta description. What is a meta description? Well, the meta description provides the search engine and the spiders a description of your website. It's your elevator pitch to get the consumer to decide if they want to click onto your site, and for the spiders to continue to consider you relevant. And in a split second, if that consumer doesn't like your meta description, instead of we're putting the book back into the bookcase, they'll just go down to the next listing. So where am I talking about? I'm talking about those 10 listings when, like years before, if you put in dentist in New Orleans and you get those 10 listings, those are the listings we're talking about, and each one of these is a meta description. So if I pull one out, now remember the goal of what we were talking about is the word dental or a book on dental. So let's look at this meta description. Here's the word dental once, twice, 3 times. So for the spiders that went to your title tag first and found dental and now have gone to your meta description and found dental 3 times, you are still considered relevant for that consumer that put the word dental into that Google white box. I actually really like this meta description because not only is the word dental here, but the word dentist is here. Again, this office obviously focuses on TMJ. You see it a number of times. I love that this meta description says quality, service-oriented, has locations, the word care, a lot of good words in this meta description. And so this is very good. And so as we've said, the spiders have considered you relevant from your title tag and then from your meta description. And we're going to go back to Barnes & Noble where I had 7 books, and now I'm going down to 1. Okay, and to go down to 1, what's the next thing that I do? Well, the next thing that I do is I start to read the first page. I start to read the first couple of pages, and from those 7, that's how I pick the final selection. With search, that is considered rich and fresh content. With search, the next step is they're going to go to your homepage and they're going to start to look at your content and to see if that content is rich and fresh. So let's go to this homepage, and here we go. We see the word dental once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. So in the context of the homepage, dental has shown up 5 times, which is not only going to give this site relevancy, but will give it high rank as it comes back to the consumer. Now let's talk a little bit about rich and fresh content and also as it relates to this homepage. Okay, no matter how many tips I give you, no matter how many hours that I provide content to attendees related to all things online, search engines, social media properties, everything else, if you speak to any expert in the social media community, they will tell you that of all things, content is king. That the search engines were created to provide the best content that is in the World Wide Web to bring it back to that consumer. So as you start to look at this, remember that content is the most important thing. I'm going to give you a list in a minute of how critical it is to follow certain rules to provide content that impacts the search engines in the biggest way. Now, if you look at this homepage, you can see that it's been listed 5 times. Now, there are some marketing companies that are going to say to you, hey, you know what? Instead of putting the word dental in 5 times, let's put it in 10 times because that will even give you higher ranking. Well, it's important to know that Google is the #1 purchaser of artificial intelligence software in the world. And believe it or not, they can read your homepage. They can read the content of your whole website. And if they read it, and in this case, if the word dental doesn't seem like it's in context, that it's just what we call stuffed in there, that is something called a black hat tactic. And a black hat tactic is what companies try to do to fool Google. And as I always say, there's 2 things you never do. You never mess with Mother Nature, and you never mess with Google, because this is called keyword stuffing. And if those spiders recognize, which they will, that you are keyword stuffing, the next day when you go to look for the ranking of your website, you will have been boot kicked to page 10. And it's amazing how many times I give a program related to SEO around North America that attendees will come up to me after on break and say, you know what, that was us. That was us. That's exactly what happened. The company we were working with added extra words that we thought were important for relevancy, and the next day we couldn't even find our website. So it's really important that when you create content, that it is unique, that it is fresh, that it is custom, that it is you, because there's lots of detriments. So for example, if you're going to get content from a company, you do not want templated content. You don't want content that you think is not only on your website because it's templated, but 10 other practices are getting it as well, because the spiders can immediately, it's amazing, but it's true, spiders can immediately recognize that your content is not yours, that your content is templated and it's in other locations as well, and your relevancy will go down as a result. So again, when we talk about these 3 tips and compare it to that trip to Barnes & Noble, title tags are critical. That's the first step for relevancy. Then your meta description, where you are in control of that. It's very important that the meta description that you saw also, you are in charge of creating that meta description. You have the ability to write what you think is important in that meta description. And again, if you don't, then Google will. Google will create your meta description for you, which again, you don't want, because you don't want Google making that decision. So again, working with an online or a social media company, you create that meta description so that it reflects what's important to you in your practice. And when we get to number 3, which is content, make sure it's original, make sure it's fresh, make sure that it focuses on the keywords that are important to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you 7 tips around content. Some we've already talked about, but some of these are really important. One is keywords. We just talked about that. That's especially for your homepage, that you want to make sure that you have words that are important to you think to a consumer, and that it's written in context. One other thing about keywords, which is new, is that it used to be if you had content in a graphic that the spiders could not read that graphic. That is no longer true. Spiders now can read what's written in a graphic, and that can be to your benefit, so you should know that. Content should be read normally and should flow. Number 3 is one you should write down just as a, separate of this whole presentation. That should be one that you want to take away with starting tomorrow. This isn't sort of new related to how Google sees things. And so take a look at what's important to you, be it Invisalign, be it implants, be it sleep medicine, dental medicine. You should take that topic and you should create a separate page for it. Now, you can't do that on the home page, but absolutely do that after that home page. If there's areas that are important to you, create a whole page on that topic, and it actually will rank you better as a result. And this is something on the newer side. We talked about unique content. The duplication of content with working with companies that are giving you templates will not work. Better to work with the online companies to create unique content that probably will need to come from you as much as in support that they'll give you. Make sure that you have fresh ongoing updates. It's great to include videos and photos and documents. That's all considered a positive. And finally, if you commit to a blog, make sure that you keep that fresh and ongoing. I just went to a practice recently, and I took a look at their blog, and their last post was in 2011, and that is not good. That is not good. That is definitely hurting their relevancy. And so it's important that if you're going to have a blog, that you commit to a blog. All right? So now let's go to tip 4, and these are some of the newer tips. And this is that you definitely want to create a, somebody has got their video on. If they could turn their video off, it would be helpful. I think it's Emily. Hi, Emily. So let's go to creating a sitemap. And this is, again, I said sort of on the new side, and this is critical. Every one of you should have a sitemap created for your website. This guarantees you that all the work that you're doing related to content is given proper credit. The spiders typically sometimes are not able to find everything that you have on your site, and that will affect your relevancy in a ranking, but a sitemap guarantees that nothing gets missed. It's basically a table of contents, and it helps the spiders and the search engines find and index all pages on your website. So tip 4, create a sitemap. This has to be done by your website company. Every one of you should do this. It helps in your relevancy and your ranking. Let's go to number 5, backlinks. Another way to improve your relevancy. And this is, if you have done anything outside of your website, let's say you wrote an article for somebody, let's say you wrote an article for Dental Economics, or you did something that was done at another site, you want to ask them if they will backlink to your site. What happens here is the search engines, if they notice that there are a lot of links back to your site, they'll go, you know, what is most important to a search engine? Content. Content is king. And if they see backlinks, they go, this must be a reference site. This must be a site that has a lot of content that's trusted by others. And if the search engines notice that, then again, your ranking and your relevancy will go up. Obviously, since we're talking about dental websites, you want the links that are coming back to you related to dentistry for the most part. Now let's go to the last one. And this is one that I can tell you that Google's not happy about because Google and Facebook are in a world war. They have been for a long time, but there was something called the Panda algorithm that was a number of years ago. And just so you know, an algorithm, you're probably going to hear that word a lot. I'm actually going to be going through the hummingbird algorithm with you shortly. An algorithm, basically, when you hear that, is a sophisticated software update. And algorithms are made for 2 reasons. They're made, one, to try to prevent companies, marketing companies, to be able to figure out how Google and Bing and Yahoo consider, you know, words and things relevant and rank them so that it can't beat them at their own game. And algorithms are also software updates to continue to enhance their own engines. And so Google, though they didn't want to, recognize that social media properties, especially Facebook, were really critical now online, and recognized that they would have to give us credit if we were socially active. And they created a program to figure it out. Now, all of these social properties won't let Google in to their inner workings, but the software program that Google created with the Panda algorithm allows Google to know if your social properties like Facebook are active, if your content is fresh, and if you have people using it. So it's important, of course, that for you to be socially active, and like I had mentioned about the blog, if you're going to do a blog, make sure those posts are regular. And if Google or Yahoo or Bing see lots of activity here, they might call you a high-level social indicator, which again increases your relevancy and your ranking. Now, one critical point here, you know, I mentioned one of the things to write down was to create a separate topic per page on your website. Here's another one. You do not get any relevancy or very little with all of your social properties unless they are linked to your website. Please make sure, again, in working with your online companies, that all of your social media properties are linked to your website, or you will get minimal credit. Minimal. All right? So those are the 6 tips that will, on your own, can be able to help you in growing your relevancy and your rank. Obviously, for most of them, you want to work with your social media companies or who you're working with for those to occur, but those will all support higher relevancy and higher ranking for you. I want to continue down this road because also what has changed is the way we as consumers work with search engines, which impacts SEO rules. If I was giving this presentation 5, 6, 7 years ago, as I did, you know, something similar to it, it was all about being number one. That the only way that you would have significant impact online with the search engines is if you were number one. Well, that is no longer true. Now the goal is to make the top 5. And the reason why is because we have matured as users. And I'll give you a perfect example of that is I was looking to buy a camera, and I wanted to buy the Sony RX 100 third edition. And so I went into Google, and of course I put that into that little white box, and up popped the top 10 listings, and number one was Sony.com. I wasn't interested in that. Number two was SonyStyle.com. Number three was Buy Sony at Amazon. Number four was Photographic Review. And number five was CNET, and that's exactly where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to number four because Photographic Review is a renowned review site of cameras and really heralded. And I wanted to see what they thought about the camera. And then number five, I wanted to see what consumers who actually bought the camera had thought of it in using it in usage. And so that has now occurred with many things online, services and goods. And so here's just a couple of takeaway numbers. 90% of consumers use search engines when looking for local products or services. 72% of internet users say they looked online for health info within the past year. And getting to what I just talked about, 87% of all clicks from organic search engine traffic go to the first five results. So as you can see, when you work with your online companies, the goal is to get to the first five, no longer the first one. Now, I talked about algorithms, and one of the ones that came out recently, which I felt didn't get the fanfare that it deserved, was the Hummingbird algorithm. Because to me, this is a game changer, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this because what was important to me was to see if this would have an impact for us in dentistry, and the answer was yes. So Hummingbird is sort of the dream come true. It's sort of the AskJeeves.com, the Ask.com that never truly was able to provide what we wanted it to, but the Hummingbird algorithm absolutely is. And what the Hummingbird algorithm is basically where the little white box has always been about putting words in, and the search engines actually focus on the individual words. Hummingbird allows you to ask a question, and Google recognizes that it's a question and looks to provide an answer. And if you look at this slide, this actually came specifically from Google themselves. So just to read it, how do I fix the chain on my Trek mountain bike? Google now understands that you're not shopping for a bike or a bike chain, but you're looking to fix the said chain, i.e. find an answer. They now prioritize the context of the query as much as the content. By emphasizing the intention of the searcher, I want to know this, over merely matching key phrases, Trek mountain bike chain, Google will be delivering more relevant results, and that's the name of their game. So by putting in the past, if I had put in, how do I fix the chain on my Trek mountain bike, the first thing I would have gotten is Trek.com, then I would have gotten Bicycle.com, then I would have gotten probably a bicycle supply company, but I never would have gotten my question answered. Today, when you ask a question, Google is searching to find the answer. Now, don't think, of course, that they were doing this just for our benefit. In Google's goal to dominate the world, this is some of the things that Hummingbird is targeted for, and one is Google Glass. Now, Google Glass as a consumer product, unfortunately, didn't work out, but what they've done now is they've started to go after vertical markets, creating these for surgeons and for engineers and for all sorts of software, different opportunity jobs. And it's going to be a tremendous success because you'll be able to use Google Glass to ask a question with the Hummingbird algorithm and get an answer, both audio and or video, while these different vertical markets are working. It's going to be really incredible. How we will be impacted by Hummingbird is right now Google is working on the Hummingbird dashboard for cars. And this will be very sophisticated. This will not be like a Siri for Apple. This will be a very sophisticated, interactive opportunity for you to ask questions while you're driving and getting very specific answers. Like if you're driving in Baltimore and you wanted to see the #1 Yelp-rated Italian restaurant, they'll be able to tell you that. And of course, the other aspect is Hummingbird is also be created for a next generation Google Watch, where you'll be able to, through speaking to it, ask questions and get answers as well. So now how does this all relate to dentistry? What should you do as a practitioner as a result of Hummingbird? So I came up with an idea. And I took it to those social media experts outside of dentistry that live this every day. And I asked them, based on Hummingbird, if a certain idea I came up with was true, would that help for relevancy and for ranking online for dental websites? And they said yes. So this is another one of those write it down takeaways of all the different slides that I would want you to do. And what I would want you to do is that when you go back to your practices, I want you to have a team meeting with your whole office. And when you go there and have that, what I want you to do is I want you to ask your team, what are the most common questions that your office is asked on a daily and weekly basis? From the front desk, from the dental assistants, from hygiene, from finance, etc. Is it people calling and asking, what is Invisalign? How much is a crown? Whatever those questions are, come together, get those questions, come up with the answers, and I want you to create a separate web page, a Q&A web page that has all the most common questions that are asked in your office with the answers. That will now tie you into Hummingbird so that when someone actually asks a question on Google, because when the spiders go out and they see that you have those exact questions, you will jump in your relevancy and jump in your ranking. Now, there's one more step that is critically important to creating that separate Q&A web page, and that is your title tags. Remember that every web page has a title tag. You want to think of what are the most important keywords that are in that Q&A section and put those words in those characters up on that title tag. Of the 140 characters, fill it with the most important words that relate to that page. Okay, I'm just going to take a sip of water. I found this cartoon. I absolutely loved it, so I'm going to share it with you while I take a sip of water, and we'll continue. I love that one. I think that one's great. Okay. What other companies can support your mission? So we've talked a lot about what we can do. We talked about that we have control of our title tags, that we're going to go back and we're going to look at those 140 characters and we're going to put what we consider to be most important in those characters as it relates to our practice and we want consumers to look for. We're going to look at that meta description. We're going to make sure that we write that meta description and that it reflects what's important to us so that when the consumer sees it, they'll click on it. When the spiders see it, they'll continue to consider you relevant. We're going to look at our content. We're going to make sure that important keywords are in that homepage and that we're writing fresh, unique content, not only for that page, but for all pages. We're going to make sure that we add a separate page for topics. We're now going to utilize the Hummingbird algorithm to create a Q&A page. So all of these are things that are important that we can do to help with relevancy and ranking. Here's some tips related to third-party online opportunities where things can support your growth independent of the work that you're doing. And one of them is tracking and analysis. So with all this work that you're doing in your website, how do you know how you're doing? How do you know what kind of impact is occurring? How many people are coming? What pages are they reading? How long are they staying on your site? How many times are they coming back? Well, when I ran my own website company, I had my own education company online. When I had my own internet company, it was important for me. I used to do all of the online education for ADA and AGD and Gordon Christensen and Peter Dawson and Frank Spear. And when we did stuff, I needed to know how were people coming, were they taking the courses, and how they did. And so there was a software program at that time that cost me $35,000 to buy in order for me to see what was going on my website. And it is called Google Analytics. And the key thing is that where it was $35,000 for me to buy it back when in 2002, you can get Google Analytics today for free. It costs you nothing. All you need to do is talk to your online marketing company, your social media company, your website, whoever you're working with, and you tell them that you would like them to install Google Analytics and show you how to use it. And it is an amazing program. And this is just one page of it. It's incredible the amount of information that you are provided which can help you in making decisions on what you want to do with your website. So just take a look at some of these statistics. It can show you number of visits, unique visitors, page views, pages per visit, how long your average visit duration is, percentage of new visits, and this is just the beginning. So for example, let's just pretend, if you see my cursor, I'm putting it there around October 5th. Let's just say that you decided to do something really special and that you created a drive in the winter for winter coats and for food for the homeless or for a shelter. And let's say you created a web page related to it. Well, how do you know if it was successful or not? Well, Google Analytics, let's pretend that started on the 5th, and look what happened. Boom, goes way up. And so here you can see on this, if this was for that page, that you had a huge increase in traffic as a result of creating that wonderful different initiative. And so again, this is one to write down. It costs you nothing. Get Google Analytics and get it on your website. Okay, now we're going to talk about existing online companies that can help you get new patients. But before we even do that, okay, I want you to look at these logos. Healthgrades, Yelp, and Google Plus logo. This is actually the new logo. Google Plus logo went from here to Google My Business, and again, we're still waiting to see where it goes from there. But these are critical things that I want you to do. It is important for you to know that even if you have never been to Yelp, even if you have never been to Healthgrades, even if you have never been to Google Plus logo or Google My Business, you are there. You are listed there. And there could even be reviews of you there. So it is really important, and this is another one that you want to write down. I think I've given you 3 or 4 write-downs. This is number 5. Tomorrow, tonight, you want to go to Healthgrades and you want to look at your profile. You want to go to Yelp and look at your profile. And to be honest with you, most important, you need to Google Plus Local and see your profile there because they made a lot of mistakes. And you want to claim it. You want to make sure your information is correct, and you want to update it. Google Plus Local made a very big mistake. They decided instead of working with these master databases that are available, that are online, they decided to create their own software program. And unfortunately, when the spiders went out and created that, there were lots of mistakes that were made. There were duplicates, there was the wrong URL, there was the wrong address, in some places the wrong phone number. And so the key here is that you want to go to Google Plus Local, you want to look at your practice, you want to make sure that information is correct. And Google is so concerned about making sure that's right, is that when you go there, it's going to ask you to verify it. And then once you've made all those changes, then they're going to actually contact you to make sure it's you and give you a PIN code so that then you can update it and complete the verification of the process. Important to know, because this is always very funny, is that after you've completed it, Google gives you the choice of a postcard or a phone call. And of course, every single time I want you to take a phone call. And so know that once you've claimed your profile at Google Plus Local or Google My Business, Google is going to call you with a PIN code, which then you put in, which then confirms that data because they want to make sure it's you. So if someone calls your front desk and says, "Hi, this is Google calling," what you don't want is that receptionist to go, "Oh, yeah, right, Google calls us every day," and hang up the phone. It is going to be them, and they're calling to give you a PIN code to put in because they want to confirm that the changes are being made by you. Okay, so before we get into benefits of companies that grow your practice, let's take care of this first. We are going to talk about how Healthgrades can help you there as well. So let's talk about Healthgrades. Healthgrades is the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to making physician appointments. They have 225 million annual visitors that go there looking for a physician. What Healthgrades recognized was that actually while that was happening, over 20 million consumers were searching for dentists. And so what they decided to do was to go into dentistry. And by doing that, they wanted to partner with certain dental companies to help them in being able to create Healthgrades for dentistry. And look at the demographics related to health grades. Remember our target, women 25 to 49, 72% of those that come to health grades are female. You can look at all the rest of this information as well, but that, of course, skews right to us. And so what Health Grades did was they partnered, and one of the companies that they partnered with is Solution Reach. And what they did is you can go there, and again, you can make sure that you are have the right profile and that all your information is correct. But to be seen, Health Grades has a upgraded opportunity, and that upgraded opportunity is available through Solution Reach. And this is a doctor, for example, Perva Merchant, who decided, and it's very inexpensive per month, but it gives you an upgraded profile on Health Grades. And the impact of that upgraded profile can be so powerful because of the incredible consumer reach that Health Grades has, is that for Perva, her Health Grades listing is higher than her own website. It went right to #1 in her own website, went to 2 and to 3. And so as you can see, this upgrade program provides an impact, and it's something that I think you should take a look at. It's important to know, by the way, with these third-party online opportunities, that I have absolutely no affiliation with Health Grades or with Solution Reach. And so these are just third-party opportunities that I have found because I like the idea of you getting an opportunity to get benefits separate of all the hard work you're doing yourself. And so Health Grades is one of them. You absolutely want to make sure you're listed properly for free, but I recommend investigating the upgrade option. I've spoken to Solution Reach, and if you put in 801-201-6357 and text Pelton, they will give you an educational demonstration of Health Grades. And I want to re-emphasize that I spoke to Solution Reach to make sure that it is an educational demonstration and not a sales demonstration. So take a look. I think it's interesting, and again, just another option for third-party option for growing your practice. Here is another company that you want to go to. Now there, you are not listed here, but I want you to go there and do this for free. So Real Self is a brilliant website, and I'm fortunate that I do know the owner of Real Self. His name is Tom Seary. He's one of the originators of Expedia.com. He's a brilliant individual, and he came up with an amazing idea. And that idea, and it started in medicine, was to put together all those consumers that have an interest in a cosmetic medical procedure on the same site where they can talk to consumers who have already had that aesthetic medical procedure, and then include in that site doctors that actually perform that aesthetic medical procedure, and the site has exploded. Look at these numbers: 8 million unique users per month, 70 million annually, 800 million page views. And so this has become an incredible site. It was an amazing idea. And what happened was, same thing like what happened with Health Grades, he started getting a significant amount of dental consumers looking for learning about more aesthetic dental procedures. These are some of the questions that they were asking. How much do implants cost? How much is a crown? Is there a permanent option for closing a tooth gap? Does Invisalign work for my teeth? Onwards, whitening, aesthetics, pain related to whitening. So what he did is, because he has so many millions of users, he did a survey. And he sent it out to his millions of unique users, and he asked them if they were happy with their smile. And 1/3 of them said they were unhappy with their smile. Then he asked them, are you concerned about discoloration? Are you concerned about discoloration? 50% were concerned about discoloration. So that then he went back and said, well, what are you concerned about? So besides the 50% that were concerned about discoloration, the next highest were crooked teeth. And as you can look from this chart, it continued on. So discolored teeth, crooked teeth, chipped and cracked teeth, missing teeth, unattractive fillings. There were some pretty good percentages here, but related to it being an aesthetic site, discolored teeth and crooked teeth were number 1 and 2. So then he asked them, what kind of shopper are you when it comes to dental care? And 28% said that they were willing to pay whatever it takes for an improved smile. So when he realized that there were these significant numbers, he added dentistry into his site. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to realself.com and you can register for free because now he's added dentistry into realself.com. So now what happens is you have consumers who are coming to a site that have had aesthetic dental procedures with consumers that are interested in aesthetic dental procedures with dentists who actually perform those dental procedures. And obviously the way his engine works is that he is able to put them together locally. So obviously if you're in Boston, you're not talking to a consumer in California. He also has an upgraded program. And again, it's not for a lot of money per month, but I would definitely investigate realself.com. Of course, what I like about it is it's free. You can just go and register. That gets you in the mix to talk to consumers that are looking for aesthetic dental procedures, as you can imagine, Invisalign, whitening, etc. And then he also has an upgraded program so that you're seeing more. So those are a couple of the ways that, with separate of your own site, that you can grow and get new patients from a third-party opportunity. Absolutely, I want you all to get Google Analytics. Make sure that you claim your profiles with Yelp and with Health Grades and with Google Plus Local, Google My Business. Take a look at Health Grades as far as an upgrade program. Take a look, go to Real Self and register, period, for free, and then also take a look at their upgrade program. So I'm going to end my program the way I end all of my social media programs with what is a takeaway for you, which are the 5 components to be effective online. And number 1 is website. There is a renaissance that is occurring right now related to the website. Social media experts outside of dentistry that are doing this for a living were shocked at the explosion of social media. To give you an idea, I went to a lecture about 5 years ago, and it was on social media properties, and they put up 16 icons as the true leaders in social media. Just recently, they had another program just related. It was within the industry itself. And when it came to the number of social media companies that are out there now, it's over 750. And so that explosion has gotten the community a little bit concerned. And what is happening now is there's a renaissance going on. You're going to see a lot more articles, a lot more programs. And actually, I'm creating one myself about how important the website is. Because the website is truly your home address. It is truly seen by more consumers than your office and your waiting room and then your location. And so the key there is to make sure you spend time on your website, that it is modern, that it is current, and the way things are being looked at going forward this year related to education is you're going to see graphics where the social media properties are the spokes and the website is the hub of the wheel. So that is your core. Make sure you're spending a lot of time to create impact with your website, that you're keeping it current. And like I said, the online community is going to spend a lot of time this year getting us back to our roots, which is the website. The second one is SEO. We've just spent an hour on it. It's critical, of course. Get your website found. I hope that the tips that I've given you have been beneficial for motivating you to get moving forward and to not only create some of those tips that I've provided, but also to make sure that your website company is supporting you with the backlinks and with the sitemaps, et cetera, things that we can't do that they need to do for us. Third, of course, is our social media, because it extends and deepens relationships with the patient community, and it expands your relevance and referrals. I'm gonna also just mention one other point here. It's from another program, but it's important to me. Don't focus on likes. Focus on engagement. Okay, there seems to be like this big competition of what practice can get more likes than what other practice. The focus needs to be on engagement. That's what's important. Okay, so if you're getting your community to interact with you, that's really the greatest benefit related to social media, not just like. Okay, Kirpin says 350 likes means you're successful as a business. I would be much happier to hear that you have 350 engagements and that you're interacting with your community. And of course, when it comes to engagement, it's critical that you make sure that team members in your practice are watching your social media properties so that if you are getting interaction, you're responding to it. There's nothing that's going to upset a potential patient or an existing patient to engage with whatever you're doing and not get a response back. Something else that I really think is a fantastic feature with patient engagement is something now that's called the patient portal. Again, going back to that Solution Reach demo, I've asked them also to create an educational initiative around that to show you. I love the patient portal. I think it's a tremendous technology. So Solution Reach provides it. I know there are other companies that do too. But what a patient portal is, it allows your patient to go into your website and to go into their own little home area where they can pay a bill, they can make an appointment, they can see their dental photos. I think it's a tremendous benefit to a website because you're tying the patient into your website so that it becomes a destination. And I think that is huge when it comes to visits and to interacting and feeling like it's part of home. So patient engagement is your fourth. And finally, last is reputation management. There's some tremendous lectures that are out there related to reputation management. There are ways to really utilize, reviews and to focus on reputation management to really support the growth of your brand. So you want to make sure that you're working with your company as far as focusing on your reputation. And so these are the 5 components to be effective online. And finally, this is my email. If any of you have, Tara, I just want to know, I can see you on the video, so hi, how you doing? You want to maybe want to shut up your video. So this is my email address. This is my personal email address. And so if you have any questions regarding the webinar today, please feel free to email me at any time, and I'll respond to you. And I hope that that you've enjoyed this hour as much as I have providing it to you. So everyone, take care. Again, thank you for attending and taking the time to attend the webinar. And again, utilize me if you have any questions. Take care, everybody.